In this video, we will go ahead and we'll create an add student JSP page. On clicking, it will take me to the next page where I'll get the form, and filling that form, the data will be going and being inserted in the database. So to do that, I have to create a new JSP file. So I'll right click on my web content and I'll say JSP file and I'll say add student. So here I'll get add student.jsp file. So here I have my JSP file. So I need the starter file, so I'll quickly copy title and scripts here and I'll paste it back here. So I'll have this all the CDNs here, and then I want the header and footer. So I'll quickly go and grab the header and footer. So I'll say the nav bar. So I have the nav bar here, and then I'll create a div tag with class container. So if you want footer, we can go copy footer from here and we can paste it. If you don't want, you can leave it, but I don't want footer. I just need important part, that is I'll be creating form here. So now I want that once I click here, it should go to that page, right? So here in my nav bar, in home, I'll say index.jsp, and in add student, if I click, it should go to add student.jsp. So the same should be done here. For add student, it should go to add student dot this one, and for index, it should go for index.jsp. And once I'm in add page, so this current should be not here, it should be for this add student. So now I'll refresh and let me quickly press on home. So I'm in index.html, index.jsp. Then if I click on add student, so see here, I go to add student.jsp and have this back. Yes, so if I click back to home, see here, I get back to my index.jsp, and if I click add student, here I am in add student.jsp. So now in this add student.jsp, I need to add a form. Yes, so to add a bootstrap form, I'll go back to my bootstrap documentation, and from here in components, I have forms. So I'll scroll down and select, this is for login, so I don't need this, and this is a general form we have here. So I'll quickly copy this and I'll paste this form inside my container. So once I paste it in my container class, so I have the form here, and I want the form bit down. So what I'll do is I'll take this container and in style, so I'll say this container, I need a margin from top of 10 pixels so that I get some space from above. So you can see now I have some space. So now I have my form ready here. Yes, so first I have to go and I have to remove all this and I can just update. So for the first thing, what is the data that I require here is roll number. So my first option should be roll number. So this is complete, this complete is one label. So for, I'll say roll number, and here also I'll say roll number, and then placeholder, here I'll say roll number. Type will be a general text in which they'll add roll number, but for us it is of int type, this one. So later we have to convert it to int. And then placeholder, I will remove placeholder, I don't need placeholder here. Then I have to create a name, right, so that I can call that in my servlet. So I'll go ahead and I'll create a name called as roll number itself. So now if I go back and if I go to my browser and if I refresh this, so I have roll number here. So the next thing after roll number I need is name. So what I'll do is I'll copy this complete div format and I'll paste it below, and I'll call this from roll number, I will say student name, and for I'll say s name, that is student name. So here also I'll say for, I'll say s name, that is student name, and here I'll remove this and I'll say s name. So if I go back and I refresh, so I got roll number, I got student name, then I need branch, semester and grade. So for branch I will use this, and for I'll say branch, I'll copy the same here and I'll say name as branch. Now instead of example I'll say select branch. And what are the branches? So you can select, I'll say CSE, I'll say ISE, say ESE, and EEE, and then say mechanical. So these are the branch available, for example, which has to be one of this must be selected here. Okay, then after that I'll refresh. So here I have select branch, so I have to click on this drop down and I can select a branch here. So after branch, what do I have to select? Semester and then grade. So for semester I think 1 to 5 here I have, so I don't need this. I'll remove this and I'll copy this above form group again, which is a select. Now instead of select branch I'll say select sem with sem. So here I'll say sem, name also will be changed to sem and branch will also be changed to, ID will be changed to sem, and option will be 1 2 3 4 5. Then I have to copy paste this. So I'll say here 6 7 and 8. So 8 semesters. So it can select any one semester here. So here I have select sem. So here I can click on the semester. Now after semester, what is the next data that I need from my database? Grade, email and phone. So next I need grade. So I'll go back, copy from top a normal text. So email, I think after student name itself I'll paste it as email. Yeah, so I'll say student email, then here I'll say s email, type will become email, this will be e s email, and the same thing I'll copy and paste in ID. So then I'll have roll number, student name, student email, then next I'll say phone number. So I'll copy this form tag again, I'll paste it and I'll say student phone number. So I'll say here s phone, same thing I'll copy here, I'll say this as number, type will be only number here. So you can see here phone number, I can write anything here. Okay, I have to write in numbers. Okay, so what am I missing now? I have finished roll number, name, branch, sem, email, phone number, only grade is remaining, right? So instead of text area I'll remove this text area and I will place this as, okay, let me grab it from top, and here I'll replace this form group as enter student grade. So here I'll say s grade, I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. So you can enter grade in SGPA or in number, so it can be anything. So I'll say text and we'll enter in terms of SGPA. So I'll say placeholder and here I'll say in CGPA. So the details will be entered in CGPA format. Okay, so now you can see we have our add student.jsp customized to this form. So once I press on this form, the data should go. So now I need a button, right? So I'll go back and I'll check on buttons. So we'll get a wonderful button here. So whichever button you want, you can select. So I'll use this button. So I'll copy this success, that is green color button, and then I will paste it below here. So I'll create a center tag and within that I'll place the button. So now I'll go back and I'll refresh. So here I have a button. If I press on success, so the value should not be success, it should be submit. Okay, so on submit it should go to this. So I'll say input type as submit, and class it will be my button. So I have my button here. So now you see here I have submit button. On clicking, you see this data will be displayed here. That's because still we have not specified whether we are using get method, post method and all. But yeah, now we have our form ready here. After that, you want to place footer, you can go ahead and copy it from your home page. You can go to home page, you can copy this footer and you can paste it there. So I don't want footer. If you want, you can go ahead and you can do it. So this is the simple form that on filling it should go the data, right? So now I have to create the controller part for this. So in my Java resources, I'll first create packages. So here I'll say model, in which I'll have all the models. Then I'll say new package, and then I'll say DAO, then I'll say new package, I'll say controllers. I'll have all this. So you can see I have a small bug which goes, so I have to refresh so that all the packages come back to my SRC. Now in controller, I'll say new servlet, and I'll say add student as the servlet name. So once I fill the data, it should come to this form, right? So what are the things we should do? We should copy this name. Then I'll go to add student, and here in my form, I have to create action and method. So method, I'll give it as post. I'll say method as post, and action on submitting, it should go to this servlet. So it should go to this servlet. So in this servlet, I don't need this comments. I'll remove out this comments. I'll remove out do post. Okay, do get, because we are not using do get. Also, I'll remove all these comments. So now I'll have only do post method here where I should get the data. So how we will get the data? So whatever is the name given to our each input, we should go and collect that. So in add student controller, I'll say string of, first I'll say int of roll number is equals to request dot get parameter, and I'll say what is the parameter name? Roll number. Yes. Then I have to convert this to integer. Yes. So I'll say integer dot parse int, and I'll say this data. Now after roll number, what is the next data I'm getting here? That is name. So that will be your string, right? So I'll say string name is equals to request dot get parameter, and I'll say s name, that is student name that I have to get, right? So you see here the name what I've given here. So I've given s name. Next email and phone number. So I'll just copy the same, or I'll just write it. String email is equals to request dot get parameter. So I'll say here s email, that is student email string. Then I'll say phone is equals to request dot get parameter, and I'll say s phone. So I'm getting the phone number of student. So after that, what is the next data I have to get? Branch and sem. So next is branch and sem. So string branch is equals to request dot get meter parameter, and I'll say branch. Okay. Now in my database, let me quickly see what type is my grade. Grade is varchar. Okay. Sem is varchar, which I have to convert it to integer because it is just 1 to 8. Yes. So I can go ahead and I can change this as integer. So remaining thing can be fine. So I'll press on apply. So the changes would be done. So now my table is updated. That sem should be an integer value. Okay. So I'll say int of sem is equals to request dot get parameter, and here I'll say sem. So I have to convert this into integer, typecast it. So yes, I have typecasted the sem. Then after sem, what is the data we are getting? The final data we are getting is grade, but that is in string. So I'll say string of grade is equals to request dot get parameter, and I'll say grade. Is it grade or s grade? What have we given here? Okay, we have given s grade, so I have to go here and I have to write s grade. Okay, so now we have written the program to get the data from our JSP to our controller, that is this add student. So now I'm getting the data. So once I get this data, I have to go ahead and I have to model it, right? So for that, I have to create a model. So in model, I'll create a class called as student model. And in this, I will specify all the instance or fields I need. So I'll say private int id, which I won't be adding, but while retrieving I need it. Then I'll say private int roll number, private string, then I'll say name, then I'll have private string email, private string, then I'll say phone, private string branch, private int sem, private string grade. So how many data do we have here? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So here I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and the eighth one is id, which is my auto increment primary key, which I won't be inserting but I'll be retrieving. So now I need getters and setters for this. So all, I'll right click, I'll press on source, and I'll say generate getters and setters, and I'll select all and I'll say generate. So getters and setters will be generated for each and every class variable. Then I need toString also, so I'll say source toString, and then all will be selected by default. I'll just press on generate. So to verify, I can use this. Now I'll go back here and I'll create a model for that. So I'll say student model s is equals to new student model. Now I have to add data. Before that, I have to import this from the package. So I have imported that from package. Then I have to add the data. So I'll say s dot set roll number as roll number variable, s dot set name as name, s dot, then I'll say set branch as branch, s dot, then I'll say set grade as grade, s dot, set phone as phone, s dot, set sem as sem, s dot. So I think I have done everything, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'm missing something. I have done roll number, I have done name, I have done email as email. Okay, so I have create phone, email, everything I have set except ID, because ID I cannot create it, right? It's auto increment. But while displaying, we'll be using the same model in which we will have ID also getting there. Now, so I can say system dot out dot print ln, and here I'll just display s. So rather than address, I will here whatever is the toString overridden method, that will be displayed, that is the data it will be displaying. Okay, so now this should be sent to my DAO, and in DAO I have to write the program to insert the data into database. So I'll go to my DAO package and I'll create a new class called as student DAO. Now in this student DAO, I will write the program to add the data into database. But for that, again, we need libraries. That is, we need your JDBC library. Without JDBC library, we cannot add a data to database, because that's the library what we need to connect to database. Yes. So for that, you have to download. We have already downloaded last class, so we have to import it. So I'll say property, and then I'll go to resources. I'll say Java build path. In that, in libraries, I'll click on module path and I'll say add external jar. And I'll go to downloads. I have SQL my connected jar here. So I'll press on open. I'll press apply and close. Then I need to paste it in the library folder inside my web INF. So I'll open this MySQL connected jar. I'll copy it here and I will click on this and paste it. So now I have that library here also in this lib folder. Okay, so references and libraries are added jar file. So now I can write the program to connect to my database. So I'll say public, then I'll say static int, that is the return type, save student data to database, and then I'll say student model s, then I'll say int of result is equals to 0 and I'll say return result. So I have to import this from package model. Okay, that is being imported. So now, as you know, we have to write the program to insert. We have seen it previously. So within try catch block, okay, so within try catch block, first I have to say which driver I'm using. So I'll say class dot for name, and then I'll say com dot jdbc dot, okay, com dot mysql dot jdbc dot driver. So this is the driver what we are using. Then I'll write the interface connection con is equals to, I have to get the connection. So with driver manager class dot get connection, in which I have to pass the URL. That will be, you have to type along jdbc colon, then I'll say mysql colon 2/ localhost. After that I'll have colon port number 3306, that is by default, and I'll have slash, then I'll have SMS, that is my schema. You see here, SMS is my schema, right? So I'll say SMS. User will be root, and you have to write the password for your SQL what you created. So I have the password. So now we are connecting to this. Okay, I have to import this connection. I have to import only from java.sql. So now connection is done. I have to write the program to add it to database. Yes, so I will create a prepared statement. PST is equals to con dot prepare statement, and I have to write the query which is to prepared. So I'll say insert into SMS dot, what is the table name here I'm getting? SMS dot student details. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it here. So insert into schema dot table name, in which I don't need ID except ID. So I'll say roll number, comma, name branch, name, comma, branch, comma, sem grade, comma, grade, comma, then I will have email, comma, then I'll say phone number. So these are the details I have to add, and I'll say values, and in bracket I'll give question mark, that is I don't know. So how many values we don't know here? 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, I missed it out. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So I need 7 question marks. 1 2 3 4 5. I have 6, and here I have now 7 question marks. So I have to add 7 data which is not prepared. So I have to get those data from my object here, from my student model object. So I'll say pst dot set string or set int, because my first parameter index 1 is an int, right? So I'll say 1 as s dot get id, no, get role. number. Then I'll say pst dot set string. In second parameter index there should be name. So here I'll say s dot get name. Then I'll say pst dot set string parameter index 3, and then I'll say s dot get branch. Branch is the next, right? Yeah, after name branch, then sem and grade. So I'll say pst dot set string 4. I'll say s dot get sem then grade. So I'll say s dot get sem, and get sem is integer value, so I have to write set int. Then I'll say pst dot set string parameter index 5 as, I'll say s dot get grade. So after sem I have grade, then finally I have email and phone number. So I'll say pst dot set string parameter index 6, and I'll say s dot get email, then finally phone number. pst dot set string parameter index 7 and say s dot get phone. So now we have ordered the data based on this: roll number, name, branch, sem, grade, email, and phone. We have ordered this. We have completed the SQL. We have prepared the SQL query statement. So now I have to execute this. So this will return me how many rows inserted, whether 1 or 0. 0 means not inserted, or already that record exists, that primary key exists. And then if it returns 1, that means it is added. So I'll say pst dot execute update, and finally that will return the result. So once I call this method, if it returns me 0, that means data is not added. If it returns me 1, that means data was successfully added. So now going back to my controller, so I'll say int of result is equals to student DAO dot save student data, and I'll pass this as, that is object to be stored here. So now if my student data is added, that is result is greater than 0, so I do not have any other page, so I'll say just simply response dot send redirect to, I'll say index.jsp. So simply go back to JSP page. Later when we create display page, we will send it back to display page. Else, so what happens else? I will say else you can print writer, or else we'll do one thing, we will send it back to or we have to display message, right? So I'll send it back to my JSP of add student, but there I'll take a data with it saying that error found. Okay, or we'll just display it here for now. Later we'll do that. Print writer, once we are completing the application, later we'll make it like that. So I'll say print writer out is equals to response dot get writer. I have to include this print writer. Now after this included, I'll say out dot println data not added successfully. Yes, so now we can go ahead and we can check this out. So I'll run my index.jsp file again freshly. So my server is running. Yes, it is starting. So now my server is still starting. Okay, now it is started. So now here I have the new index.jsp file. So I'll click on add student. So it will go to add student.jsp. Here I'll give roll number as 1. I'll write my student name as Aman. Then I'll say student email ID. I'll say aman@gmail.com. Then student phone number, I'll give some number. Then branch, I'll say ISE or let it be CSE. semester, I'll say 6, then I'll say grade 8.2 or something. I'll press on submit. So on submitting, it is coming back to index.jsp. So when will it come back to index.jsp? When it is successfully added, result is greater than 0. Yes. And also you can see here it is adding the student. You can see here student data. How is it that I'm getting student data? Because we have written here system.out.println s, that s is the object. Now that s would actually give class name, then at the rate and address, but we have overridden the model and said that toString, overridden the toString in the student model and said that it should display the data. That is why we are getting the data. So now we have seen how to create your addstudent.jsp web page and where you can create such beautiful forms, and on submitting it is going. So we'll verify that in database. So going back to my database, I have to refresh or I have to run that again. So if I refresh, you see the data, ID is 1, roll number is 1, name, branch, SEM and everything. So we'll go back and we'll add some more data. So I'll go back to home. Okay, I'll go back to here. I'll say roll number as 5, 6, student name as Ram, email I'll say ram@gmail.com. So I'll say his phone number or something like this. He is from MEC branch and he is from 3rd branch, and I'll say 9.54 is his grade. I'll press on submit. So it's coming back to index.jsp. That means data was added successfully. So I'll go ahead and I'll add some more data. So I'll say roll number 2 and say his name is Sham. So don't worry about roll numbers and all. I'll say sam@gmail.com. I'll say some phone numbers, branch something else, semester 4, and GPA I'll say 5.04, and I'll press on submit. So here I'll say roll number 10. I'll say Lily. Her email would be lily@gmail.com. Phone number, I'll give some random numbers. Branch, I'll give CSE. Then here semester, I'll give 8, and I'll say 6.78 as the grade, and I'll press on submit. So now we have added some quite couple of datas, which in later videos we'll be using to get it and display. So this is how we've created a beautiful web application in which we added multiple page, and then we saw how we can add the data to database. So in next video we will go ahead and we'll work on this display students, where if I click on display students, it should display all the students in a beautiful table.